Hello, and how are you? It's me, Douglas, again. Just thought I'd say hello and hope you're having a great day. Um, I've been sharing some Bible verses. I hope you're appreciating them. I thought I would try something different this time. There are some ideas or thoughts on my mind I'd like to talk about. I've grown up as a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm fifth generation, so I'm very familiar with the culture and the understanding of theology. But there's some ideas or some thoughts have come to my mind. First of all, the Seventh Day Sabbath is a pretty main focus of the Adventist Church, keeping the Sabbath and recognizing its importance. But my perception of it growing up was that it's a law of God, that we must keep it. But it has to be more to it than that, simply that's God's law. So I thought I'd share some ideas I've had about it. It's true, it is a law of God, but it began in the Garden of Eden. When the garden was created, if you look in Genesis chapter 2, God says, I've created this, and I've created the Sabbath. The Sabbath is mine, it belongs to me. And if you look in Exodus chapter 20, verses between 8 and 11, which is the fourth commandment, I can look it up if you want. You can look it up yourself too, of course. But he also again refers to it as my Sabbath. So, being as it is his, it's something different. Um, if we look at it from the law perspective, it's something we must keep because it's God's law. But it's a little bit different. If he said it belongs to me, it talks about his creation. The world was created. This is part of my creation. The seventh day Sabbath, it belongs to me. First of all, I can't create anything besides creating mess or trouble. But it's a critical part of that creation. When we recognize the Sabbath, we recognize God as our creator also. So it's important. But there's of course there's more things I'd like to share with you. Um, it, as the Sabbath, it's something that belongs to God. It's similar to the tithe. That we again as Seventh-day Adventists, I'm sure there are other denominations that speak of it or believe in it as well. If you look at Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 and 10, if I remember right. Anyways, yes, those are the verses. God refers to the tithe as my tithe. It belongs to me. You're only returning it. You're not giving me something. This is not a contribution. This is not a donation. It belongs to me. And when you recognize me as a provider, then I will more than make up for it. And the seventh day Sabbath is similar. It's something that belongs to God. If we recognize it, He's promised. Like everything else, He will bless us. He'll make up for it. It is also other things. In Exodus 20, verse 2, it talks about the nation of Israel, when they were brought out of the house of bondage. It came out of the nation of Egypt, and God brought them out of slavery. So the Sabbath is also meant to be, it's a rest. We're not a slave, and we have to work 7 days a week. We only have to work 6, and God has promised to provide for us. He will take care of us. When they were marching back in Exodus 16, don't ask the verse. Anyways, in chapter 16, they introduced the manna, and it was the same thing. You work 6 days, you gather the manna, and I will provide for you. When we recognize the Sabbath, when we keep the Sabbath, we're recognizing God as our creator and our provider. And if we recognize Him from this perspective, as you do the tithe, that it belongs to Him, He's promised to bless us. And Malachi talks about the blessings that returning God's tithe that He promises. And it's the same thing, I believe, with the seventh-day Sabbath, whereas many things that we receive when we're things we are blessed in. And I'm sure you probably have some examples in your own life. For one thing, it's nice to have a day off, but it's also nice, not just that I have a day off from work. if you're self-employed, you can understand this. You can take any day off you want to, but you don't get paid for it. But the seventh-day Sabbath, if we take it off, we refrain from working, God has promised to more than make up for the time we've taken off. So I don't want to look at this seventh-day Sabbath, and it is in the Ten Commandments, but it isn't just a law. It's a blessing, and we receive more than we put into it. It's like I said, you can relate it to the way the tithe is. The tithe is returning something to God. The seventh-day Sabbath is returning something to Him that belongs to Him, as stated in Genesis and also in Exodus. So these are just some thoughts and difference in theology, what I grew up with, or understanding of the Sabbath. So I thought I would share it with you. I like to look at things in a practical sense. I especially like to see the love of God in everything. And I think the Sabbath is something that we can look to, especially is to see God's love, because He provides for us. He blesses us, and He's designed or created the world with this way that He can bless us. So there's my thoughts today. God bless you. If you have any questions, you know where I'm at. So take care.